Welcome to the deep dive. We take all that info out there, cut through the noise, really, and boil it down to what you actually need to know. And today, we're jumping into something that, well, it's probably on a lot of your minds, especially now. Summer's basically here. July 4th is coming up fast. We're talking Maui car rental prices. We've seen some, frankly, wild swings lately, some surprising trends, a few things that make you go. So our mission today, let's unpack all of this, explore these shifts, figure out what's going on, and give you some clear insights, hopefully help you navigate this market. Okay, let's dive in.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here, I think, is just how fast things can change, even in markets you think are, pretty predictable. There's just so much noise out there, conflicting advice maybe. This deep dive, though, we cut right through it. We're using specific, really recent data, June 2025, but also looking back at historical trends, years of data, actually, so you get a genuinely clear picture. We'll look at why some prices are shooting up, others are surprisingly dropping. And that old question, is booking last minute really cheaper? It's all tailored for you.
And when I say wild swings, yeah, I really mean it. If you're planning that Maui trip, or maybe you're just interested in, travel cost, you'll want to stick around for this. Looking right now, the week of June 23rd, 2025, prices for most cars out of Kahului Airport sharply up, way up from last week. It really feels like we're snapping back into that high season pricing model. And, we've all heard that advice, right? Book last minute for a deal. Or, always rent off airport. It's cheaper. Well, the data we're seeing, it's showing some definite shifts away from that traditional thinking.
Exactly. We've seen prices firming up pretty consistently since, late April? Early May, maybe. That's when they hit that sort of shoulder season bottom, that sweet spot between the big peaks where prices are usually lowest. And this climb now, it's perfectly consistent with patterns we've tracked for years. Prices almost always peak around the July 4th holiday. So, for instance, the cheapest economy cars, they're at $258 a week now. That's up 14% just from last week. Mid-size cars, up 24%. They're at $295.
Okay, but then you get into the real eye-openers. This is where that supply and demand thing gets really specific. Jeeps are up a huge 75%, $657 a week now. And SUVs, wow, the price has more than doubled, a 139% increase, up to $601 a week. But the absolute showstopper, the one that's just, astronomical this week, minivans, get this, $1,339 a week, up 53%. They're the most expensive vehicle out there right now. Might be a second mortgage just for the minivan, huh?
You're not wrong. It's incredible. And what's really interesting is how specific categories, like you said, minivans, are just so disproportionately hit. This isn't just general, it's summer demand. This points to a really targeted spike, probably family travel, right?
Correct.
And it's clearly way outstripping the supply for that kind of vehicle. But here's the real curveball. The key anomaly this week, maybe a tactic-savvy travelers could use, convertibles. While everything else is soaring, convertibles have actually dropped. For the second week running, they're down 20% to just $395 a week, which, that puts them a huge 37% below their median price over the last year.
Whoa, okay. That is completely out of sync.
Yeah.
Totally against the seasonal trend, right? It really makes you wonder, are we in a new era where the old rules for booking just don't apply consistently anymore? Why would they drop now?
Well, our analysis points towards possibly a new shipment, a batch of new convertibles arriving on island, getting put into the fleet. This isn't just a random dip. It looks like a classic example of, even in peak season, companies needing to get those new assets working, generating revenue immediately. So if a big batch of new cars lands, they might discount them sharply just to get them rented out fast, get them into the system. It's likely a short-term market adjustment, but definitely something a smart traveler could potentially jump on.
Okay, interesting. So what does this tell us about the rest of the summer then? Are these like $1,300 minivan prices here to stay? Or can we expect things to calm down a bit?
Yeah, good question. If we sort of step back and look at the bigger picture, our forecast shows that, yes, these advanced reservation prices seem to be peaking, probably right around now, next week or two, likely tied, like we said, to that really intense July 4th demand. But after the holiday passes, we do expect them to settle back down, just a bit, mind you, not plummeting, but returning to slightly lower levels. And they'll probably stay around that sort of summer high season level for the rest of July, maybe into early August. This lines up perfectly, actually, with the historical trends we've seen over years, including just last year, summer 2024. Prices stay high through summer, then start tapering off usually in, September.
Okay, this brings us to that huge question. Everyone always asks this. Is it actually cheaper to book your Maui car last minute? We've all heard it, maybe done it. But does the data actually back that up right now? And what's the Implication then for people, maybe you listening who are kind of locked into those peak travel dates. Is there any wiggle room?
Right. Well, we've been tracking this pretty closely since mid-December 2024. And for a lot of that time, surprisingly, yes, prices closer to the actual rental date have often been lower than booking way in advance. But, and this is a big, but that gap, that discount has been really variable during the super busy times like President's Day back in February or spring break in March. Those short lead time prices, they did rise quite a bit. The discount really narrowed. So no, you weren't finding massive last minute bargains during the absolute peak weeks. And what's interesting for a rental starting tomorrow, June 23rd, the best prices we found for both airport and off airport. They actually popped up 1 week in advance. That was the low point, 233 a week minimum. Waiting until the very last minute, like today for tomorrow, the price went back up to $258 a week.
Huh. 1 week out was the sweet spot this time. That's a great point because it leads right into that other common bit of advice. Renting off airport is always cheaper.
Yeah.
But based on what you're saying and these price jumps, maybe not. What's going on there? Why would off airport suddenly be more expensive sometimes?
Yeah, historically, that was usually true. Off-airport rentals generally avoided some of those higher mandatory airport taxes and fees. Plus, rental companies charge a bit of a convenience premium right at the airport. But this past winter and spring, we saw a major shift, a disruption, really. Demand was really strong, maybe stronger than expected. And it seems like the supply at the off-airport locations just couldn't keep up. It got tight. And so, yeah, in many cases, off-airport prices actually ended up being higher than renting right at the airport.
Wow. So the tables really have turned there, at least for now.
Yeah.
What does that tell us? I mean, about how quickly that old travel wisdom can just become outdated.
It's a really powerful reminder, isn't it? You've got to check the current data. Don't just assume. And for this week, yeah, our latest survey confirms it. Those off-airport supply limits seem to be kicking in again. Prices for pretty much every vehicle category are, well, almost uniformly higher if you rent off-airport right now. The only exception, minivans. They're actually slightly higher at the airport, but honestly, the difference is tiny. And minivan prices, both on and an off airport, are way up from last week anyway. It just underscores how fast these market dynamics can shift, really fast.
Okay, last big piece here. Let's talk about Maui compared to the other islands. For so long, it just felt like Maui was always the most expensive place in Hawaii to rent a car. Is that still the case?
Yeah, for a long time, Maui definitely held that title, or was right up there near the top. Consistently pricey, but things shifted. As of June 16th, just recently, Maui saw the biggest price jump of any island this week, up 40% to that $258 a week for the cheapest option. And that big jump, it actually broke Maui's 12-week streak, get this, as the cheapest island for renting a car.
Wait, hang on. Maui was the cheapest for 12 weeks. That's genuinely surprising. Why? I mean, what factors do you think let Maui hold on to that cheapest spot for so long? And why did the streak break just now?
It's a bit unusual, yeah. That 12-week run likely reflected a period where maybe their fleet levels were better or they had specific promotions running that made them, well, unusually competitive compared to the others. But this current surge, this 40% jump, it ends that streak. Now, at $258, it's actually just $4 more expensive than Kauai's Lihue Airport. Kauai is at $254 this week, making it currently the cheapest island. Hilo Airport on the Big Island is also at $258, same as Maui, unchanged from last week. Kona, the other Big Island airport, that's the highest right now at $343. And Honolulu on Oahu is up moderately to $316. So yeah, Maui's no longer the absolute rock bottom price, but it's still very competitive right there with Kauai and Hilo, even after that big recent price hike.
Okay, wow. So let's try and wrap this up. What does this all mean for you, the listener? Well, the takeaway seems pretty clear. Prices, they're sharply up for most cars as we head into summer 2025, especially those minivans, hitting that wow, $7,339 a week mark. July 4th looks like the peak with maybe a slight dip afterwards, which kind of fits the historical pattern. But then there was that weird anomaly, right? Convertibles actually fell for 2 weeks, down to just $395. Super unusual. We also saw that, yeah, for a while, last minute was cheaper sometimes, but for rental starting tomorrow, booking 1 week ago was actually the best bet. And definitely don't assume off-airport is cheaper anymore. Our data shows it's often higher right now, probably due to specific supply issues. Oh, and Maui. Broke its 12-week streak as the cheapest island, but it's still neck and neck with Kauai. Only $4 more this week.
Yeah, and stepping back just a bit, looking at the broader trends, it really just highlights how incredibly dynamic these market conditions are. Even for something seemingly straightforward, like car rentals on one island, you've got supply, demand, new cars suddenly showing up, seasonal effects. They all mix together in, well, complex ways, and the whole picture can shift really quickly. So it really encourages, I think, some critical thinking when you're planning your travel. With pricing this dynamic and these weird exceptions popping up, like those convertibles, or the fact that last minute isn't always best anymore, the idea of single best time or best place to book, it's just not static. It really demands you pay attention to the real time data, what's happening now, which I guess raises an important question for you, the listener, to think about. In a world where, an SUV price can jump 139% in a single week, how much value do you put on flexibility versus locking in a deal early? What specific factor for you would make you take the chance on booking last minute, knowing just how much prices and availability could swing either way?